Please welcome Dragana on stage.
Good afternoon, how are you? Or good morning, depends, we're on a break there. My name is Dragana Beara, and I am part of the Dell Technologies organization. Now I'm going to ask you a few questions before I begin, because I like to gauge my audience and I know who I'm speaking to. So first question is, how many of you are from IT? Okay. How many of you are from the data analytics, digital transformation type of group? How many of you are from HR? All right, there's one, two, excellent. I'm so happy to see you here, welcome. I think you will find today's presentation interesting because it will focus a little bit on a less technical aspect of digital future and the future workplace. So Dell Technologies is an organization that you may be familiar with, but you may have a bit of a different understanding of what Dell is. So first of all, I'm going to ask, how many of you think that Dell is a computer company? Okay. How many of you think Dell is a virtualization company? Okay. We're going to learn something new. So Dell Technologies is actually a family of 7 different organizations and brands. They comprise of Dell, Dell EMC, Pivotal, RSA, SecureWorks, VirtuStream, probably most famous VMware, and Dell Boomi. We are here to provide platforms and infrastructure for the digital future. But in addition to talking about technology, and in addition to talking about platforms, we also like to understand why our technology is here and what it's used for. And so we spend a lot of time doing research around how our technology is enabling human progress, how it's enabling the society and the economy. So we partnered with a company called Institute for the Future. They are a future-gazing organization. Back in 2017, we actually released a paper called The New Era of the Human-Machine Partnership. And just 2 days ago, actually on the 16th, we released the follow-up to that study that's called The Future of Work, which is part of the series called Future of Economy, which we released back in April, and we're going to also release Future of Life in September. So I'm going to share some insights with you around how we perceive what emerging technologies are going to shape the future, specifically future workplace, and what technology organizations or what technologies need to keep in mind as they implement and as they deploy these systems for betterment of humanity. So there are a few things that have become apparent out of this 4,600 participant study that we've done. So a lot of our report is based actually on a survey that we've done with global participants of 4,600 organizations. And that is that there's really 4 main aspects that in the next 5 years will enter the workplace and will reshape how we operate and how we produce and how we contribute to the society. So the first one is collaborative AI. And a lot of us think that AI is something that's here to compete with us. A lot of us think that, because AI became mostly famous from what can a machine do better than a human. And so, the chess competitions and checkers competitions and all that has been at the inception of AI being known to us. But technically, most of the AI development right now is done to create collaborative AI. AI that is going to augment us, that's going to give us an ability to really leverage our humanity and what humans are mostly good at. And everything that is tedious for us, everything that is difficult for us, everything that we're not as good at, like computation, or getting insights from huge data sets, that's something that we're going to outsource to the AI system that are going to help us actually contribute to the society. The next one is multimodal interfaces. Multimodal interfaces are something that is going to enable us to better interact with our AI. And it's going to also give us an ability to, even through gestures, give machine signals on what we need action. The next one is extended reality, which really consists of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. And that is something that's going to give us a better ability to visualize our data and to again, use our own judgment, our own sense to make the decisions that need to be made. And finally, secure distributed ledgers based on blockchain are going to enable a economy that is going to empower individual contributors to offer their services globally, no matter where they are, and to be fairly paid. So smart contracts are going to take place and take hold very soon, creating a more equitable workplace globally. So I'm going to share with you our vision of what is going to come, maybe in the next 10 years or so. I'm using an example. We have several videos. I decided today to use the example of the design function and how design is going to be transformed with these emerging technologies.
You know, looking back on it, none of us had any idea I'd ever be this big. I mean, you'd figure they know with all their fancy, schmancy, artificial intelligence tools. Oh, there she is, Mrs. Show Me the Money. Yeah, she probably did. She worked with artificial intelligence to cross-reference live trends and develop my concept. Once an opportunity is deemed worthy via predictive modeling, a business plan is hammered out, shared, reviewed with the team. All very fancy, eh? They worked on my timeline to stardom and rough costs because I'm worth it. Looks like an easy sell. Luckily, they recognize a good idea when it's handed to them, eh? Hank, my so-called creative director, got to work. His AI system proactively brainstormed with him. My stories and narratives are written, my look and feel was imagined. I was given a whole backstory based on mystical deer monsters. It takes a lot of work to create something as special as me. Luckily, his system can find the right talent from all over the world cut out for the job. My whole world was built using existing code, which was tweaked for yours truly. Gosh, she's fast. That hurts my eyes. Please fix that. That's better. Watch me dodge. Woohoo! Let there be light. All hail my maker. Ah, look, the hunter-gatherer type, always on the hunt for inspiration. This remote cottage is where I was conceived. Lovely, isn't it? Ah, there's lots to choose from here. Yes, that'll do. You're wondering who this handsome devil is, eh? That tickles. That's me. Nice to meet you. I started off kind of rough, but my maker made some adjustments to get me just right. Hey, here's an idea. Ginger, why not? Meow. Almost there. Looking good. Here's my world. Out here I'm visible to the whole community. They can see me, play with me, tell my maker what they think. Luckily, I was rendered with thick skin. The creative director can follow the activity in my world and had to comment on my looks. He may be the boss, but better not mess with something as handsome as me.
So in this video, I've just shown you all 4 technologies and probably more that I've just mentioned in a previous slide. And if you can see here, artificial intelligence has been active in every step of the creation of this character. That is something that we're going to see more and more. And what's interesting is that if you look at this slide here, this is something that our Dell HR and Diversity and Inclusion Organization put together as the skill sets required for the workplace of the future. And as you will see in there, there's pretty much like one area, math and data skills, that is something that machines are generally better than us at doing. Now, as the masters of the technology, we need to actually have those skills so that we can make sure that our technology is doing things better. There's one new area that we have added recently, and that is AI fluency. Our ability to interact with machines and to actually do our job better. That's something that potentially in our multi-generational workplace will be challenging for many of us, because in the next few years, we're going to have probably 4 different generations, maybe 5 different generations in a workplace, which hasn't been done before. And these generations are really created based on their comfort with technology and their productivity modes. And so we're going to have anything from Generation Z or Z, which are people who are now still in elementary school, high school, and some of them are actually in university, through millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, and so on. So we basically have a situation where a lot of people are going to have different comfort levels. I personally really don't like personal assistants, mostly from the security standpoint. I just don't like Amazon or Apple listening to me, even though I know they are, even though I disable everything. But at least it makes me feel like safer if I turn it all off. My son, on the other hand, is very, very keen on using Siri. Actually, my kids a few years ago, when they were much younger, they would get on my phone and they would talk to Siri nonstop, to a point where I actually had to change the voice from female to male. This was before I disabled it. And I told them that the female Siri was feeling so frustrated she left and had to get a new one. And so that worked for a couple of months, and then they moved on. The key point is that generations like my son and my daughter, who are Gen Zs, they have no problem using AI constantly. My son actually has an Apple Watch, and he goes, "Siri, what's the time?" I'm like, really? Like, you can take a look yourself, but there's really no need for that. So when I give you some examples of the proof points, so what I just talked about in terms of these 3 new shifts that are going to happen to enable a more equitable workplace, you will see that one of them is actually a company that creates a scheduling software. And I actually looked deeper into it, and I thought, I don't need this. I can do this myself much better. But I know that my son would probably really enjoy that. So the first one is AI Fluency, and that is something to do with the example I've just given. These younger generations, they'll be like AI natives, similar to what we talk about digital natives right now, for people who are more comfortable with the technologies that we're using for collaboration and communication. AI natives will actually be people who are going to be training older generations on how to be more comfortable with the AI-enabled productivity and systems, and also various new technologies that we can't even anticipate. Another one has to do with the inclusive talent that is basically going to come in place. That means that AI systems are going to enable a less biased employee selection and are going to enable people across different groups, ethnicities, genders, and so on to collaborate, to be a little better included in a workplace and to be enabled better. Because if we have right now a lot, actually one thing I was shocked about when I moved to Singapore, and I've been here now 4 years, is that here people expect you to put your photograph, your date of birth, your marital status, your religion. I was like, wow, this is so contrary to what, for example, in Canada, where I come from, is practiced, because that information enables hiring managers and HR to apply their personal bias on employee selection, which can actually eliminate the best candidates from the list. And that's not fair, and it's really not good for the company at all. And the next one is empowered workers. Again, empowered workers is also making the workplace more equitable, because it allows people to actually communicate and collaborate through different modes and means across distances and through different interaction screens, so that they can actually be better engaged and have better user experience. Because again, this is a point for IT. You can roll out the best technology you can. You can have the most flawlessly set up project. But if that is not being implemented with deep change management practices around it, and other groups like HR are not on board, your technology may not be adopted. It may not be used, it could be rejected, and then your project will be viewed as failure. So it's really essential to not only give technology to people, but understand what is this technology going to do for the people. Give them an ability to learn about it and understand why it's given. Work with your counterparts in HR, as well as facilities, because facilities are becoming more equipped to actually deploy AI through IoT, because I sometimes let people use IoT and AI as disparate elements of technologies, but they're not. IoT takes our physical information and converts it into digital information, which is then fed into our AI systems, who are then trained with that information so that we can get better insights. That's really the whole concept of generating data capital and becoming a digital company. So with that, I'm going to move on to a few proof points. We have a company called X.AI. They have created personal assistants, Amy and Andrew, who can do meeting scheduling. And these personal assistants are actually wildly successful. I mean, I've done a little, again, research on this company, and a lot of people have provided a lot of feedback online about using these systems, and especially people who are, salespeople, anybody who does a lot of meetings. This is providing them with incredible return on their time so that they don't have to reach out individually for every meeting they want to have, but actually assistants take over. The next one is inclusive talent. And actually, just to the previous point, I actually thought that for me personally, it would take a while to get used to dealing with Amy and Andrew and then sometimes double checking whether they figured out that this other person is in another time zone or whether we're using the same collaboration software to talk. So that's something that, again, AI fluent individuals will have much easier time with. Next one is inclusive talent. I already mentioned this. Amazon was recently in the papers because originally they were deemed as leaders in the AI unbiased recruiting. And then they realized that they were actually using biased data to train their algorithms, because at the start of AWS, mostly men applied for jobs for Amazon. So they used their successful candidate profiles to train AI, and unfortunately, the AI started eliminating female resumes because it just did not reflect the AWS workforce. So it's very important to actually make sure that the system that you're using, that the algorithms that you're training, that the data you're feeding your algorithms is actually free of bias. So Eightfold uses learning and personalization optimization to find the ideal candidates, not just from their resumes, but they're actually surveying also the social media in various other areas where these individuals may be present and active to better correlate the proper talent for it. So that's another use case. And another one is with Volke, Dell customer that built a VR software that enables participants to collaborate during the design process. So we have done similar things for Nike. If you've been to any other Dell events, you probably saw the Nike video. I didn't want to play it here because it's been played quite a bit. But fundamentally, this kind of mode is not just the presentation layer. There's a lot of AI in the background of this that basically is listening to the conversations that are taking place with between the designers and aiding in their design process, potentially loading the backgrounds, loading the models, doing things that they need, which is, again, very much of a voice recognition and AI-enabled technology. And so all this promised world out there is really attractive and interesting, but there are certain obstacles we need to get through, because actually, I'm kind of a fan of this Chinese show that's on Singapore Airlines, Story of Ancient Palace. And there was an episode where a dog gets punished for something. And one of the characters makes a statement and says, well, the dog is a dog, right? And it's only really its master's intention. If the dog is trained to behave in a negative way, it's going to be a evil, a tool for evil. And if it's actually with a good master, it's not going to be that way. In the same ways with AI, it's really up to us to make sure that we put these limits around what we deploy. We need to understand what we're creating. We need to understand why we're creating, we need to also understand, should we even have it? Should AI be making certain decisions? And for that, we actually need laws in place. We also need the digital skills in place. All of these factors are really important for us to actually get out of technology what we need to get out of. Because honestly, technology is easy. It's the human nature, is the human factor that's so much more complicated and so much more challenging to overcome in making successful deployments for AI. So finally, just to close, I just wanted to say that basically, we think that in the future, every organization will be a digital organization that is fueled by data and is running in a multi-cloud world. And so we're building hardware platforms for that and software, and we're implementing all that. But the key point is, again, that the companies that are going to outpace everybody else are going to have a couple of things in common, and that is that they're going to use these technologies in a human-friendly manner to basically include in their workplace digitally savvy individuals, that they're going to implement AI assistance, but again, at the same time, have very, very heavy change management and culture management policies in place to enable this. And also, smart workspaces are becoming more of a thing, where the environment you're operating in, because of the IoT that's in it, because of the AI that's in it, is making your job easier and is making you more productive. On the other hand, we also need a work culture that is enabled with policies, but also is practicing non-biased AI to protect workers' rights and to ensure policy that's following the changes in technology. Because I think what we're finding is that technologies and innovation is moving at such fast pace, while a lot of checks and balances are, operating on something that was real like 20, 30 years ago. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this session, and I wanted to thank you for your attention. If you have any additional questions, you can find me. There's also the report that I talked about is online. You can access it by going to this webpage, and I wish you a great day. Thank you.